On this episode of Purposely Curious, we look into a random conspiracy theory I happened to stumble upon on one long night of insomnia. The theory is that Fidel Castro is Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's father. The more I looked into this theory, the more I believed it was totally feasible. And I'm not the only one, apparently. So, join us as we discuss this interesting topic. Get nice and cozy as this episode starts now. Hello, Leonie.
Greetings, Mary. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How's everything?
Everything is good. It's been kind of like a busy week as far as things we are interested in.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So you saw what happened with Brittany.
Yes.
Not any new news to us who have, I guess, been following it. It's just unfortunate that to hear her voice in the leaked audio. But it should be interesting to see what happens from here on out.
Yeah.
It should be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? I actually caught your last episode. You did an update and you basically read her statement. And it was just really, really shocking and sad to hear, because I think finally, it's like she finally has her voice, or at least, we can assume that that's, her talking, about, wishing to have her freedoms and all that back. And it's just sad, it's just sad what she's been going through for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, just reminds me of, remember when we covered it, when I said, we all go through shit in life. We all get depressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just unfortunate that she had just had 2 kids, probably depressed, going through a divorce, right?
Right.
And paparazzi chasing her with people telling her, you have to do this. I mean, who wouldn't lose it? Like, we all go through that stuff. It's just unfortunate that she was taken advantage of. And
right.
If you guys look into the woman who was kind of like her business manager, and I don't know if I mentioned this in the Free Britney movement episode when we did it. She's also been known to have tried, if you look her up, she used to be her business manager and then she resigned like a year ago.
Okay.
Because things are happening, right?
Right?
Remember I told you the dominoes are going to start falling?
Right.
She, as I started looking into it, she tried to get Lindsay Lohan in conservatorship with Lindsay Lohan's mom. And the dad was like, no, we're stopping this. So you guys can look that up. Courtney Love has talked about her as well, openly. And she tried to get her in a conservatorship as well. Just some crazy shit. Like this woman does it for a living. So I know she's trying to go in hiding probably now, but I won't say her name, but look her up, guys. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. And then today, the 25th, there was a unclassified preliminary assessment of unidentified aerial phenomena, which is what we covered in the last episode, you and me, Leonie.
Yes.
And I told you I felt like nothing new would really come out of it. Like I feel like we would get like a watered down version of it, which is kind of what it is if you look at it. I mean, they're specific as to a report in like this small time frame, right?
Right.
But they don't really say much other than they're not from us and we don't think they're from other governments, right? So we just don't know what they are. And Leonie sent me the link today while I was working, but one of the things that really stood out to me was this sentence. The challenges to the UAP collection is socio-cultural stigmas and sensor limitations remain obstacles to collecting data on UAPs. And I was kind of annoyed because I'm like, it's fucking stigma that you guys put in people's heads. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now you're like, oh, one of the challenges we're running into is this, whatever. But what did you think of the report?
I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, that sentence you read is fascinating because it's like the damage you've done, you can't undo. Now it's just a matter of time, It's kind of like trying to convince people, that a pandemic is real and they don't believe it. And it's like, well, some of you are gonna die, and then when you finally start dying, you're gonna, finally accept it and realize that, oh yeah, this is real, So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like that. It's just gonna have to play out, unfortunately. But I think now that the mainstream media is reporting on it,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody else is, and supposedly the branches of the military are now encouraging reports to be filed, I mean, if all that is true, it's promising, I
It
mean,
is, yeah. And
it's a
just think of
start.
the new generation now, right? The new generation's like open to the idea, and if as the newer generation gets older, right, they're
Right.
the stigma is hopefully going to be less and less as time progresses, like you said.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the one takeaway from this that I'm still like, trying to figure this one out is this report only covers from 2004 to the present day to 2021.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like, it's not looking back 60 years, 70 years. Like, it's not looking back in the 70s or 80s or 90s anywhere. Just from 2004 till now. And I wonder if that's because that's when they got their they got caught with their pants down, basically. It's like all the photos and videos that have been leaked all have been from 2004 till present.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, so that's all you got to show me? Well, guess what? That's all we're going to tell you about.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Which is
yeah, I'm like, what?
probably what it is. Yeah.
I mean, okay, so what do they tell us? There were 100 and what is it? 40, 100, what was the number? One, let me look at that up real quick. It's like 144 reports, okay, that originated from United States government sources. And of those, 80 of those reports from 144, 80 were observed with multiple sensors, meaning that there's multiple data and collection, so not just a photo but also a video, an infrared, on radar, so
Mm-hmm. Multiple places, sources.
yeah, well, yeah, it's just like confirm that, hey, you're not looking at a little reflection, like there's an actual object there or something's going on. So that's okay, that's interesting. So maybe the rest that were not of those 80, maybe they just didn't think much about it. They just said, hey, we saw something.
Yeah.
Now, from those, the interesting thing is that in 18 of those incidents, described in 21 different reports, apparently they were observed, the UAPs, the unidentified aerial phenomenon, movement of patterns or flight characteristics that were unusual. So
Yeah.
they're reported
Mm-hmm.
to, have flying, erratically, or just, can't, you know. But again, that's
Yeah.
because it was reported. Okay, so maybe there's a lot of stuff that was not reported, that was, chased or visualized or witnessed. And the other interesting thing about this is that there are 11 reports of documented instances in which pilots reported near misses with a UAP. That means they
Mm-hmm.
almost crashed at least 11 times with something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the part that me that's like, scary. That's like, okay. It's like we don't have the technology to say, hey, we're gonna crash, we're gonna move, right? We just can't move that quickly. Those objects clearly can, and have. So
Yeah.
because they did, it's just like, wow, the pilots, I'm sure, were thinking, well, we almost died and we didn't, and here's the proof that we came that close. So if they came that close, there might be some up close photos, or videos that I'm not sure we'll ever see, but I'm hopeful. But yeah, so as you said,
Yeah.
the report's lacking, but I understand it's first step,
Yeah.
and whatever whatever it takes, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm sure we're not ready for the full truth yet.
Oh no, we're not. I mean, we're still considered the nerds, right? The who are all excited about it.
Yeah.
But one thing that stood out to me, based on what you were saying on the reports, is that these UAPs or UFOs for the old folks,
Right.
some of us, right, appear to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. In a small number of cases, military aircraft system processed radio frequency energy associated with these sightings, which is something that people would claim in the past, right? They saw a UFO by this tree, right? And then there was radiation radiating or whatever.
Right.
So to me, yes, they're basically saying they're not ours. It doesn't look like they're we can confirm it's not another government's, right?
Right.
In some of these instances, they're doing shit that physically maybe we can't do. We don't have the technology, but we don't know what they are.
Right.
You know, so I think that's a first step. I just thought it was funny that they were saying some of the challenges of us collecting this information is that stigma, you know, in the culture. And I'm like, because of you guys.
Right.
And I think too, the reason maybe why they didn't go so far, kind of like what you said, it's because these videos were leaked from these years and on. You know, it would be like admitting that the past governments, you know, it's the same government, but you know what I mean? Like admitting to their lies. So I think they just rather just start fresh
right
from here on out.
Right.
You know, because I mean, I think now people are probably like, yeah, Roswell probably is true, or, you know, different stuff. But I'm really excited. So we'll see. To me, this is the first step. I'm sure it's not like they're going to do anything in the next few months. We probably won't hear anything new for a while, but it's a step, right?
It's a step. It's a step. And I'm still going to, you know, be following these guys that are releasing these photos, you know, not the fake ones, actual legit ones, because they have access to them. Not sure how they have access to them, but what they post is, you know, being said by the government. Yes, they're legit. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see what they release next, because apparently they've been teasing the last few weeks that it's like, oh, you've seen nothing yet, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful for something, you know, maybe much more, you know, defined or clear, or, you know, or wow, you know?
Yeah. And you actually brought up a good point when you said, you know, like when they talk about the fact that let's say there was a sighting, it was on camera, on radar, like multiple sources for this one sighting. There was a lot of people who would like, oh, it's the lighting. You know what I mean? It's like from the camera. So this just goes to debunk that. If the government is saying, well, we saw for this sighting, we were able to get it on different machines or whatever.
Right.
So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, ooh, how exciting.
Yeah. Interesting times for sure, you know, because I don't know. This is going to change, obviously, our lives in one way or another, whether you want to or not, or believe in it or not. I mean, you know, I mean, if we're being watched by something out there, I mean, now we have a global problem, not just like, hey, we're being spied on by a different country. It's like, no, we're being spied on by somebody else out there, and that's kind of scary, you know. It's like, why, you know?
Well, I don't know. I don't know why I see it like in a positive way. I'm excited. Like, I don't want to think of it as a negative thing. I think it will be, I think for humanity, I think it's a good thing for us to realize we're not alone, you know, but I don't know if you notice that every time you bring in the negative end of it, it's not that I don't listen to it. I just don't see it that way. I think we're assuming that they are. Maybe they are. I'm not saying they're not, Leonie. But yeah, I mean, it seems like there's technology out there that's better than ours. You know what I mean? And they could have bombed us a long time ago. They're obviously watching us. If the whole, like, them turning the nuclear thing off that one time.
Right.
I don't know. I just don't see it like as a negative thing. But I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm excited. But I don't have that fear, nor do I want to think of it that way. But that's just, maybe I'm trying to be optimistic. I don't know. But I am excited.
Yeah. I honestly don't know how to feel about it. I mean, all I know is that if I saw one of those things hanging out outside my window, I would be pretty frightened by it. Like, part of me wants to say, oh, cool, check it out. And the other part of me says, fuck no. Like, why is that thing here? You know? Like, I'm not ready to be abducted, you know, or killed or whatever, you know? So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know. There's just, I guess the unknown of all that is a little, weird for me,
Yeah. That's weird for all of us. I think it's just, we'll wait and see. I think it's already changed our lives in the sense that all of us are now openly talking about it,
Right.
So, well, we'll see what happens. And I hope they don't come to your house. I'm not making fun of you.
No, but if they did, it would explain everything, and I'd be like, just fucking take me already, Like,
oh,
like just don't tell anybody. Just take me. Just
yeah.
you
So, but yes, I have another conspiracy I want to talk about.
Oh, do tell, do tell.
I was telling someone, I was like, a lot of the conspiracies I talk about tend to end up being like proven in some way or another. Like, but this one, I'm not saying I believe in it, but I think it's possible, it's feasible. And that is that Fidel Castro is Justin Trudeau's dad. Have you heard of this one?
No.
Okay. I hadn't heard of it either. So, guys, I just like anybody, sometimes we have insomnia, right? I couldn't sleep. And then I just stumbled on this theory that it was like a theory that this is potentially could be his father. And, there was pictures of young Fidel Castro next to Justin Trudeau's. And I was like, oh my God, they really look alike, right?
Right.
But that was the extent of it. So I read the article. Next thing you know, because for those of you who are from Canada, we're in the U.S. And growing up, I don't remember any prime minister from Canada. Like, to me, in my memory, it's just been Justin Trudeau. And I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly.
Yes.
So I started reading, and so I learned a lot about Canadian history. So his mom is Margaret Trudeau, who married Pierre Trudeau. And Pierre Trudeau was kind of like a ladies' man before. He was known to be a playboy, loved to party, and he met her in the early 70s, and I think he's like 30 years older than her. She was like in her early 20s when they met.
Right.
Or was she 19, I think. The point is, I then started watching like documentaries on them. That these are like old documentaries, and they were like legit. Like, she was like doing interviews, and you can tell she was like a hippie, carefree, didn't give a shit. She spoke her mind.
Right.
Like, so I was like, wow, his parents are like characters in themselves, and I had no idea, right?
Yeah.
So next thing you know, I'm sucked into all these videos, and they were very, very close to Fidel Castro.
Interesting.
Now, keep in mind, it just started with me seeing the pictures of young Fidel Castro next to Justin Trudeau's. And I'm like, holy shit, he looks like him. But that's just how it started. And then, just to fast forward, and we'll go into the details, but when Justin Trudeau's dad died, Fidel Castro flew to Canada for the funeral.
Right.
And then when Fidel Castro died, Justin Trudeau released a statement which was kind of sympathizing with Fidel. And apparently there was this whole outrage that, like, people were upset with Justin, saying like, he's a fucking dictator, like, what the fuck? Like, it's so insensitive. So I didn't know any of this, obviously, but I was just sucked in. So I was like, I want to talk about this.
Right.
Yes. So, like I said, have you seen the pictures? I think I sent you the article.
Yeah, I saw. There's a picture of the Prime Minister, Mr. Trudeau, walking next to Fidel at the airport, I believe. As he's waving with his hand high, held high.
Oh, when he's a baby, or are we talking as adults? Sorry,
the adult, the father.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the dad.
The dad, yes.
Pierre.
Pierre. I'm sorry. Yes, not Justin. Pierre.
Yeah. Okay. I was confused. Yeah. So there's a lot of pictures of Fidel Castro with Margaret Trudeau. There's a picture of her they're in Cuba, they're visiting, and Justin Trudeau is being held by Fidel Castro.
Right.
And Fidel Castro's looking at him like, oh, it's like a cute baby, you know, and she's admiring the baby being held by Fidel. Then there's another picture of Margaret Trudeau, you know, and Fidel has a cigar in his mouth and he's like showing her a book. And Pierre is there, but Margaret has like her arm around him and she looks gushing. So there's all these pictures that are published. So the point is that I'm going to kind of go through this whole ordeal with you guys as far as like the details of why people believe that it is true. But if you guys have time, like you should really Google the pictures of Justin Trudeau and Fidel Castro young so you guys can just look at the faces. So apparently a lot of people in Canada believe that this is true. And apparently word around town in Cuba is that this is true. Fidel Castro's son apparently died of suicide, so they say.
Yes.
He also had written in his note, so they say, that Trudeau, Justin, was his half-brother. But I don't know how true that is, right?
Right.
So questions that there's basically the Trudeaus got married. They met in the early 70s. They got married and went on their honeymoon in 1971. There's articles in that time that kind of say what they were in the Caribbean, like what islands they went to, and then they specifically said in that article that there was one island they went to that they don't want to disclose for personal reasons.
Right.
Which would have been like 9 months before Justin was born. Total coincidence. I mean, they could have made the baby, right? Because it was their second honeymoon, right? But what people start saying is just that they kept going back to Cuba with the baby a lot. And if you guys look up the pictures, you will see pictures of Fidel with them and the baby. And, you know, point is they were apparently also known in Canada for being swingers as a married couple.
Nice.
Everyone knows Fidel Castro apparently had thousands of women, you know. Some say from what I read that he had one in the morning and one at night. I don't know if it's true, but I mean, he's a dictator, right?
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah. So
I would.
But my biggest thing is like, I didn't realize when I looked at these pictures that there was going to be all this information out there, which although it's not proven, the timeline of when they were there makes sense that it could be possible. And the fact that Justin pretty much looks like him, young, handsome Fidel, right?
Yeah.
Is the trippiest part. And then when you have all these pictures of them going back to Cuba. So here the US is like, fuck Cuba, right? And Canada, you know, the prime minister keeps going to Cuba, right? With his wife and the baby, you know, and then you're looking at his siblings' pictures. They don't really look like Justin. I don't know. I didn't realize this conspiracy theory like was pretty legit as far as like people from Cuba and Canada are like, oh yeah, we've known that, you know.
Right.
There's rumors began to, I guess, circulate at the time. I guess was that Pierre, being 30 years older than his wife, was maybe not as like sexual, you know, 'cause he was older. And so that's why they think that, you know, maybe she had, because they were swingers, right? They had something to do, but I don't know. It's a lot of information. I could probably read it all, but I don't know. What do you think?
It's definitely interesting. And it's interesting you mentioned the whole connection to the U.S. because we were never Cuba's friend, you know? I mean, well, we were before Fidel took over, you know? But it's one of those things where I can't remember another country that we were close to, because apparently our neighbors to the north, Canada, have always been our allies and, you know, true friends, right? Always, right? And I guess during that time, you know, I was just too young to understand that the Canadian Prime Minister, Pierre, and his wife, were that close and visiting Cuba often. It's like, it just seems like a very weird relationship. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, it's very fascinating, this theory about it. I mean, because you're right. Looking at those photos, they do look a lot, you know. And it's possible that I even wonder if like Pierre Trudeau and and his wife, like if they knew, like let's just say it's 100% real, right? Like, it's true that Justin is Fidel's son. Like, I wonder if they knew that, or if they just denied it, or you
Yeah.
know.
So apparently, when I was looking into this, the rumors got so like crazy in Canada that the government put out a press release stating it is not true. So the Canadian people were like, this is true. And again, they know the history. I'm just telling you guys from what I read. Like, I didn't realize he came from like prime minister royalty. You know what I mean?
Right.
Pierre was a playboy when he was young. His wife was young, and she was also known, she's still alive, was also known as someone who loved to live free. They divorced. I think she was partying at area. Oh my God, I was saying Area 51 because we were just
Yes, with the
talking about
aliens.
UFOs.
Yeah, right.
What is that club?
Area 51, the club.
No. Oh my God, I feel so stupid now. See, this is why we shouldn't cover more than one subject in an episode.
Mary, it's okay. You can chew gum and walk at the same time. You can, I promise you.
Actually, I can't. Like, if we're going to be serious, I can't. If I'm walking and I want to take a sip of a drink, I stop walking to drink. Like, I'm
Actually,
not kidding you.
no, I'm the same way, because I'll fucking dribble that shit all over me. Trust me, I'm the same way.
Oh my God. Anyway, I feel
Hey,
so stupid that
hey,
I
do you
said
know?
that.
No, no, no.
Studio 54. It's
Right.
Studio
Yeah,
54. Sorry.
it's east of Area 51. By 2,000
Jeez.
miles. Yeah.
Oh my God. How embarrassing.
Do you know about the suicide note?
From the Castro's son.
Yeah.
Yes, but I couldn't find. Okay, so the suicide notes apparently said that it mentions Justin in it. So a lot of the links of the reporting I saw in it, when I would click on the links, it would always say like, this is no longer, like those articles were taken down. So I couldn't. But yes, I heard about it, but I couldn't find anything about
I
it.
have the wording if you want me to read it to
Oh,
you.
sure.
Should I
What did
do
you?
it? Should I do it in his possible voice, like what he would sound like, maybe?
I don't know. You might offend people. I don't know how bad you're gonna kill it, or if you're gonna be spot on.
Nah, I'm horrible. I'm bad at impersonations. I don't even know what he sounds like. But no, I'll just read it. It says, supposedly the Castros knew, with one of Castro's sons allegedly referring to Justin as his brother in his suicide note, saying that Fidel was always, quote unquote, always comparing me unfavorably with Justin, dismissing my achievements in comparison to his success in Canada. But what was I to do? Question mark. I am Cuban. Period. My brother is Canadian. Period. If he was born and raised in Cuba, he would have lived in our father's shadow forever, just like me. Supposedly, that's the note.
And that's the thing. You found it. I couldn't find it, but apparently that's what everyone in Cuba was saying. And apparently people in Cuba always believed it. And then the more I started looking into it, the whole, like when you read something and they say, people say that they were playboys and swingers, right? And then, when I watched the interview of like his mom,
Right.
she was a carefree, wild woman. You know what I mean? She was partying in Studio 54
Right.
with Rolling Stones, and she's in some of their memoirs, apparently, of the good time they had while she was still married. I was like, damn, so this is her later in life when she already had her 3 boys.
Right.
So she was partying. So the more I started looking into it, it seemed more feasible. And then just keep in mind what I said when Pierre Trudeau died, who is supposedly his father, right?
Right.
Cuba, Fidel flew to the funeral. And I had no idea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And then the whole ordeal when Fidel died, people he put out a statement, Justin, and he was criticized because it was too sympathetic to Fidel. And in all of this, everyone understood that yes, you're letting your emotions of your connection of your family. And again, this is because they were homies, the dad and the mom, they really admired Fidel.
Right.
They would always go to Cuba. And then I found that after Fidel died, who's been over there to Cuba from prime ministers and presidents? Justin.
Right.
He was over there and he met with them, and it's all in, and I was like, so there's obviously a connection there. And again, all this started from me seeing these pictures that someone posted. Like, someone joked, it was just a stupid joke, right? Like, fight me on this, you won't change my mind.
Right, right.
And then I was like, next thing you know, I'm like, oh, apparently a lot of people believe this in Cuba and in Canada. And these are the rumors and these are the articles. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yes. Yes. So I don't know. To me, it seemed like, yes, they look alike when Fidel was young, because I think all of us remember him now as an older guy. Look up pictures of Fidel young. And then just the relationship the family had. They kept going to Cuba. There's pictures of him holding Justin, right? The mom looks like enamored with Fidel, right? They both were. They both apparently were really they admired him. But just the way the way the mom would hold and put her arm around Fidel, that's a level of comfort. You know how, like, when you see, people from different countries, the fucking Biden went to go see the Queen, right?
Right.
They just stand next to each other. They shake their hands, She had a familiarity with him, hugging him, putting her hands and arms around, and he was totally comfortable, Definitely very comfortable with each other. And again, this is the 70s, right? Hippie, love, swinging.
Cuban cigar sugar daddy.
Yes. Yes. And the more I read, it was just the relationship between the Trudeau family and Fidel. It's like, Fidel has gone to the U.S. just to was it NATO or the UN where they talk?
Yeah.
He would fly just to talk shit about the U.S., right? But
Of
then
course.
to see that he went to the funeral of Trudeau and you see a picture of him and young Justin,
Right.
And then guess who goes to Cuba when he's passed? Justin. So I don't know. Definitely there's an odd relationship there.
It is odd. Here's the thing. Just because your parents were friends with, there's a reason why, the world or America and many other countries disliked Cuba, not the people there, but the government, the communist government of Castro, because he did awful things, and people were tortured, people were killed. Like, you cannot speak bad about Castro, you know what I'm saying? So it's so weird to have the Trudeaus have a kid who's basically our age, right? And he's like, in his mind, like, how would he be friends with with Castro? You know what I'm saying? Like, he wouldn't know him, like, he'd be one generation removed. And if he followed history, he'd be like, well, he was some look at him as a hero and others look at him as, like, he did bad by his people, and for him to kind of go out of his way to show up, it's really interesting. I understand because the parents were friends and all that, but in this day and age, it's just really, really interesting if he doesn't have a real relationship with that country,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but now if you dig deeper and figure out that there's some more personal stuff going on, then that part does make sense, but but he would have been too young in my mind to have any real memories and friendships, like, today the country is very passive. Like, they're not doing anything aggressive. all you can hope for is that, that they're treating their people right these days. And even though his brother took over, and I think he's about to retire, right?
I don't
His
know.
brother Raul, I think he's about to retire, and they're gonna appoint some new president. And all you can hope for is that, that they're doing better by their people, and that they're not continuing, secretly what they've been doing for the past, whatever, 50, 60 years. And that they would progress, because it's like, the world would love to vacation there, like it was back in the 1950s. Everybody would love to go to the beaches there and smoke some Cubans and have the Cuban cuisine food and know the people, and support the economy there, So, I mean, all you can hope for is that they would change and open that up to the world. I mean, sure, you can travel there now, right? It's, I don't know how you get there, right? I mean, I know during the Obama presidency, like something, the traveling there was, being more lenient. So I actually know a couple of people that went there, and it's, the photos are so cool. I don't know if you've ever seen what it looks like on the streets there. I mean, not thinking of the poverty and the poor people and all that. No, just thinking about what the vibe looks like. It looks like 1950s America, because a lot of the cars there are 1950-year-old American cars on the streets, still functioning, still running. And that's kind of like, like somebody put pause on time, like when you think about it, like that was the last time we were there, And ever since, like, they kept those classic cars going. And if you take a taxi, that's what they look like. They look like these, these classic cars, So, and it looks like a fun, place to be, So I myself personally, I hope that, things get resolved between our countries and we can go there one day, because I think it'd be beautiful to check out that country.
Yeah. So I just thought it was interesting. I learned a lot about Canadian history. Guys, you guys should really look into this.
Yeah, the photos are just amazing, because you're just like, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I also found some videos where it's like a picture of both of them smiling. So it looks like he has his smile, where they would kind of move over the beard onto Trudeau, and it's like, oh shit, it looks like Fidel now.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. But like I said, there's pictures you can obviously see in the pictures that Margaret is really into Fidel. When
Right.
this is in the 70s, guys, and he's holding Justin, or she's all up on him with familiarity that you would only have if you're comfortable with that person.
Yeah, she's holding baby daddy.
Yeah, or if but I get that this is in the 70s, right? But
Right.
it was just world leaders didn't do that, right? Even now, it's like, it's just, she's just all up on Fidel, like.
Yeah.
I can see it. But there is an article that was done by Karen Leibowitz. She really broke it down where it is feasible and plausible. And it goes down to the timeline of when they were in the Caribbean, right before he was conceived. And then just looking at the pictures, and then the fact that they kept going back and back, right? They were the only ones that ever really visited frequently Cuba. And there's all these documented pictures of them with Fidel. Again,
Right.
This is in the 70s. And then just when people, when Pierre died, Fidel got on his private jet and went to Justin for the funeral, and then vice versa. And then this letter of the suicide letter of Fidel's son, which I'm still not sure if that letter exists, but apparently when I was reading, a lot of people said that that was word around town in Cuba,
Right.
that's exactly what the letter said. And, he died, a while ago?
Yeah.
Or they say he committed suicide. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting that I don't know that I believe it, but I feel like it's very, very possible that he could be the father just because they look so much alike.
I mean,
and
look,
the timelines fit.
Look, when it comes to sex, it just takes one magical time to make a baby. You know what I'm saying? It's like
No way.
one time. That's it. I don't care how old you are. Like, just One time, so it's like you said, I don't know, maybe they got drunk on a ship and just, you know, Papa Trudeau passed out or something, and Mama was like, hey, let's go have a cigarette inside or something, and one time, and that's it. And maybe she didn't even know. Maybe she just, believed that it
Yeah.
was a Trudeau kid, the whole time. So, but the photos are just fascinating to look at for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, when they were in their second honeymoon, they were in the Caribbean. They visited all the islands. They name every single island in the Ottawa Journal, which is cited. And if you look it up, it's from April 13, 1971. And they specifically said, we went to one island, another island, which we won't discuss due to privacy. And the Ottawa Journal literally was like, okay. And they cited that and wrote, we respected their privacy.
Right.
So everyone suspects, like, what other island is in the fucking Caribbean from the other ones you didn't mention?
Right.
Cuba. Like,
right. Exactly.
and then, 9 months later, here comes the baby. No big deal. They take the baby to Cuba several times. There's all these pictures from the 70s. And now Justin he's a handsome man now, right? And you look at fucking Fidel as a young man, and he looks just like
yeah,
creepy.
that is fun.
So if you guys want to look into this more, you can. But I thought it was very interesting to learn about Margaret Trudeau and Pierre Trudeau, which are Justin's parents, and they were sexually open and out there and liked to have fun. And he was 30 years older than his mom, Margaret. And before they divorced, when he was prime minister, she was partying at, oh my God, I forgot again.
Area 51. The dance floor, Area 51.
Studio 54.
Studio, whatever.
I know. I cannot believe I said that. I was like, this is why I cannot do more than one subject in an episode. She was known to frequent the club, Area 51. But guys, if you just want, I'm not telling you to believe it because I'm not even sure I believe it, but I'm pretty impressed by the timeline. And if you want to look up this article, it really does it justice.
Dude, you know who else has parents that were 30 years apart?
Who?
Me.
Really?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, my mom was in her 20s and my dad was almost like 60,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you want to tell me you can't have kids at that age? Shit. Hold my Corona, I'll show you.
Oh my God. Yeah. Crazy. My mom's 5 years older than my dad. And my grandmother is 18 years older than my grandpa.
Wow.
Yeah. But they married when he's not my biological grandfather. They married when I was like 8 or something.
Oh, right.
But that should be interesting.
Yeah, people trip out when they ask my dad's story and all that. I tell them, I go, look, I don't know if you know, my dad was a World War II veteran. He was at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii when the Japanese attacked. He was 17 years old, and he was in the Korea War, and he was in the Vietnam War, and he was asked to go back for the Gulf War, but he didn't. He retired from the Navy, at that time. But yeah, he was older, so growing up, looking back, it was sad because it was an insulting comment when people always look at him and say, yeah, you have a lovely grandson, and he would say, well, that's my son,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wow.
But yeah, so it was something like that. Totally believable.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, we'll see if we ever find out something, but you guys look into this and tell me what you guys think. Tell me and Leonie what you guys think, but I know I sent it to Leonie. I was like, look what I've been looking into. Tell me I'm crazy, Leonie.
Well, you're crazy, yes. I mean, but the story's cool too, so.
Yeah. And it's pretty interesting. I didn't realize so many people from both Canada and Cuba have been talking about this for a long time now. But no one's really picking up on it. But like I said, the rumors were so strong that his government recently had to put out a release and say, no, this is bullshit.
Right.
So interesting.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining me, Leonie.
Yes, my pleasure. Always. I love it.
Yes, and we'll think of another subject to talk about next time, and maybe I won't mix up the places.
This week on Purposely Curious, making babies at 60.
Oh my God.
Can you do it too?
Some people can, yes.
For sure.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. We'll see you guys next time. Bye. That was episode 65 of the Purposely Curious podcast. Make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on most podcast platforms. And follow us on social media at Purposely Curious on Instagram and at Purposely C Pod on Twitter. That's Purposely, the letter C, Pod. Until next time, you know what to do.